The warboard method is a visual planning system for getting what's in your head out into the world quickly and with as little overwhelm as possible. In this series, we'll walk through various ways you can use a warboard to map and tackle your dream life or project. In this workshop, we'll walk through one of several templates and planning sequences for launching your own warboard. So, as I mentioned, this is one of several templates I use within the warboard method to start a warboard, especially for someone who's never used this goal planning and execution method. You can mix and match the variations to suit your needs and preferences. In this workshop, we'll break down the first variation, the journey. Worth mentioning, trying to organize around all of the warboard variations will cause overwhelm and complexity that will lead you to quit. So don't try to do them all at once, or all of them ever. Experiment and find the variations that work for you. Completely ignore the rest. Simplicity and the ability to stick with it are the things that will help you succeed with warboarding. So this is the initial view of the journey variation on a warboard. I think this was originally a Milanote template that I just modified for my purposes. Milanote is my preferred platform for warboarding. No affiliation at the time of this recording, but you can use any whiteboarding app or even an empty wall in your home or office, which is how I used to warboard before going digital. I created this template for the young entrepreneurs and creators within the Rock Your Genius mentoring program years ago, and it's held up against time and use, so I'm pretty confident in its framing. I like the setup so much I decided to use it with clients too. So let's go through it. The quotes up top serve as constant reminders to help keep you aligned with the life and person you're trying to live and be. The first one is by Catherine Ann Jones. What story would you choose to live by? When thinking about your life and what you want to do with it, I find this question particularly anchoring and clarifying. Oftentimes, we're not living a life we would choose to live by. We're usually living by default. But if you stop and think, if I had it my way, what story would I be living? What would my life look like? What would my day-to-day look like? What would I be doing? That version of your life is probably much different than your default. So when thinking about your own direction, start there. What story would you choose to live by? The next quote is from the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, a sacred text from the Hindu religion. The translator and author says, "The subject of the Gita and our lives is the war within. The struggle for self-mastery every human being must wage if he or she is to emerge from life victorious. Internal and external obstacles will conspire to keep you complacent and in default living. Mastering yourself means mastering your life, and the warboard is your command central." Random trivia: this quote is where I came up with the name for the warboard. Your warboard is your battle plan, and where you conquer the internal and external obstacles in order to be victorious in life. This might be a good place to introduce our example case study. Let's fill this in for Maya, a 38-year-old project manager who's quietly dreaming of a slower, more intentional life, ideally somewhere warm, doing work she actually cares about. We'll be using Maya's story to fill in our warboard. Let's go back to the template. Monkey mind. If you don't know it already, monkey mind is a Buddhist concept. I lean on a lot of ancient wisdom here. It's referred to in neuroscience as the brain's default mode network, or DMN, which is a state of restless, distracted, uncontrolled thinking. And if you don't learn to control it, it'll wreck your best intentions when it takes over. I put this monkey mind section for myself first, and then the kids within the mentoring program, in order to help us work through those internal battles against the monkey mind. If you click into it, you'll find one of my favorite quotes from Rob Bell, another spiritual leader worth knowing and following if you don't already. He says, "What's the nature of your stuckness? Ask it of yourself when you're stalled or not acting on something. I'm feeling stuck with or around blank. Make a note within the first column. What makes you feel that way? Note that. Is it true or reasonable? What can you do about it? And what's your next step or steps? Note these in the last box, but then, and this is important, you'll want to drag these into your warboard for completion. You'll repeat this process as many times as you need to overcome the monkey mind. So here's what it might look like, using Maya's example. Note here, I create a lot of my warboard graphics in Canva, but you can use the whiteboard notes, in this case Milanotes, just as well. So Maya filled in where she's currently feeling stuck, in her case, questioning whether it might be too late to change course without blowing everything up. Why does she feel that way? Because her life looks good on paper, and it's scary and feels ungrateful even to think about giving that up. These are the real things that keep us stuck. Is this true and reasonable? Here she's challenging her beliefs. Good. It's never too late, even if we feel like it might be. If this isn't your last day on Earth, and who can know that, with the will, there's still time to go for something. What can she do about it? Is there something she can do about that feeling and fear? She says she can stop treating this as an all-or-nothing decision and start mapping out a transition. She can stop catastrophizing. So, what's her next step as she sees it? Building out her war board, getting out of her head, and into the battle through planning and action. Experiment. That's what she can do. Okay, so next, we're going to walk through the journey, step by step. First up, the inspiration/vision board. Obviously, you'll start with a blank slate, but I include instructions at every step to help you along. Basically, this will be like a working Pinterest board, in a sense, that captures visual inspiration for your journey. You'll want to make your inspiration pieces as realistic and accurate as possible, and also inspiring and enticing for you. Add things that speak to you and make you want to get started building this version of your life. Spend some time with this, as it will be something you visit regularly to motivate you and reconnect with the vision you have for your life or project, if that's the case. Don't worry about getting it perfect or fully complete. You can add to and revise it over time. Let's look at Maya's. Remember, she's wanting to have greater freedom, to live somewhere warmer, and do work she really cares about. So here's what Maya's inspiration/vision board looks like. Again, Canva template, unsplash photos. No need to make the job harder. You can make this as simple or as elaborate as you like, and you'll add to and modify it over time. From there, you'll move to remember when. Again, a blank slate, but this is where you'll keep a record of all the cool, scary, frustrating stories of your journey. Before and after photos, journal entries, problems, wish lists, remember when stories. One example to give you an idea, a kid in the mentoring program, a DJ based in Chicago, was telling a story as we were constructing her war board about a major, at the time, mishap she ran into one night before or after a gig. From my recollection, it involved being stranded with equipment in the wee hours of the morning in Chicago. Probably in the winter because it's Chicago. This is the perfect kind of a story to include in your Remember When section. You'll forget these, what seem at the time, insurmountable obstacles and dilemmas, and these turn into war stories when you finally make it to the other side. They don't have to be long, just little vignettes of how the journey's going as you move along. Let's look at Maya's. Here she added a few journal snippets, as well as a photo from her travels. And it's a mix of challenges and positive experiences. From there, you'll skip ahead to the long-term vision. The long-term vision subboard is where you think big. In Dan Sullivan, strategic coach terms, what if you gave yourself 25 years to transform your life? What would that look like? What do you think you could accomplish? What would you like to accomplish in that time? Write down 3 to 5 things you want to see happen. You can even copy over a few of your pictures from your inspiration/vision board to make them more powerful. And you'll be thinking of these things as you move forward with your war board. Let's look at Maya's. She's listed out 5 things she wants to do long-term. Live and work from somewhere that doesn't feel like a compromise. Do work that she'd do even if no one was paying her to do it, but with people paying her. A body of work she's proud of, that outlasts the hustle and grind. Enough financial margin to make decisions from desire instead of desperation. And a daily life that reflects her actual values, rather than ones she inherited. She's also copied in her Lisbon photo for inspiration. From there, you can move into the 3 to 5 year vision. Now I'll admit, 3 to 5 year plans don't work well for me, so if it's the same for you, feel free to skip this section. I include it because some people like having this level of detail to their planning. My experience has been that life and desires change too much for me over 3 to 5 years, so my brain doesn't assign much relevance to them. But that might not be true for you. As with everything here, this is your war board, so adapt it to work for you. If you do want a 3 to 5 year vision, add it like you did with your long-term one. 3 to 5 items, and you can pull in visuals if they help. Here's Maya's. Working backward from her longer-term plan and forward from her commitment to get out of her head into the battle and start experimenting through planning and action. Here are some steps she's laid out for the next 3 to 5 years. 1. To get out of corporate employment or significantly reduce to part-time or contract work. 2. To reach her first real proof of concept for independent income, something she's built. And 3. Living somewhere new for at least 3 months to test the reality of it. That's what she's setting out to do over the next 3 to 5 years. Next, you'll move to the 12 to 18-month vision.
This is way more relevant for the near term. You have long-term plans, and possibly 3 to 5 year plans if you like having those.
From those things, what can you do? And this is big rock movements over the next 12 to 18 months to move toward that longer-term vision. You'll want to identify those milestones and then break them down into 3 to 5 things you can do by quarter over the coming year or so. Again, these become your milestones and the steps to achieve each one. Let's go back to Maya's. Since she broke down her long-term goals into a 3 to 5 year vision, she's working from there. If you skip 3 to 5 year goals, then you'd work from your longer-term ones. In Maya's case, though, she wants to get out of corporate employment or reduce to part-time or contract work, get her first real proof of concept for independent income, something she's built, and live somewhere new for at least 3 months to test the reality. So here's what she's decided for her quarterly milestones over the next 12 to 18 months. Q1, audit her current life, finances, expenses, what she actually needs to sustain, a real and complete number. Q2, launch one small income experiment, consulting, a workshop, a digital product, something that generates revenue outside the day job. Q3, a 4 to 6 week trip to a shortlist location, work remotely if possible, and treat it as a pilot run. Q4, make a decision based on data, not fear, stay or go, but decide, deliberately. Next, you'll move into the meat and potatoes of the journey, the 90 to 100 day plan. You'll only be taking the immediate next quarter here, or 90 to 100 days, not anything beyond that point. You'll tackle those quarters as they come. This is what gives you your focus for the next quarter. Break down each milestone from the previous step into the next quarter's aims, 3 to 5 steps to get you to each one. Then break each step into next best steps, to-dos to help you achieve those bigger aims. Basically, these are strategies and tactics you think will help you achieve each step. Remember, a lot of this you'll be making up as you go, or attempting to learn from people who've gone before you, so there will be some experimentation involved. On that note, the 90 to 100 day plan, its milestones, its big steps, and its little steps, are where you can adjust your overall strategy more frequently, once per quarter, in order to match reality and what's actually happening. If you see one strategy isn't working and you've missed a big step or milestone, you're evaluating much more frequently in order to course correct. That makes it way more likely for you to reach your longer-term goals than if you only revisit your goals once a year. One more note here, this is a good place to make templates for yourself for recurring actions, as well as make a rough schedule for yourself or a big rock work block daily routine. To do that, you simply make recurring action notes and/or to-do lists and label them as template so that you know to duplicate them at your desired intervals. So let's look at Maya's plan. The milestone she's attempting to reach over the next 90 to 100 days is to know her real number, what it actually costs to live the life that she wants. 1. To track every expense for 30 days. No judgment, just data. 2. To research the cost of living in her top 3 locations. 3. To talk to 3 people who've made a similar move. 4. To identify the skill she could monetize first and fastest. And 5. To draft a 12-month financial runway plan. She's also listed her to-dos for the first week, including setting up a spreadsheet for tracking her expenses and uploading or linking to it within her warboard, booking one of the 3 conversations, and writing her "what story would I choose to live by" response. She plans to have one big rock daily work block from 6:30 to 7:30 each morning, where she spends time in her warboard and lining up her intentions for the day before the day job takes over. Now, between the 90 to 100-day plan and the 12 to 18-month vision is where you'll be spending the bulk of your energy and attention over the next quarter. That's why the default positioning of the "You Are Here" marker is stationed there. I make these kinds of visual markers within my own warboard, so I put them in the templates too, in case they're helpful. You can remove them if they don't work or aren't necessary for you. So, for warboard purposes, the journey is where you plan. You'll actually execute within your warboard overview, which we'll get to after this portion of the walkthrough. Whatever you create, especially within the 90 to 100-day plan and the 12 to 18-month vision, you'll want to duplicate or copy those items over to your main warboard, so they're top of mind and top of warboard over the coming quarter, months, weeks, and days. We'll use Maya's journey as an example here shortly. And last but not least, Here There Be Dragons. Note here, you can make a shortcut to this subboard and drag it to your main warboard if you anticipate using it a lot. You'll see why in a minute. Adjacent to the monkey mind. Here There Be Dragons is where you tackle your biggest fears about this dream or project and its plan. It's where you outwardly express and deal with the fears and worst-case scenarios that could happen if you execute it or it fails. Make your notes. What are your biggest fears about this? What is the worst thing that would happen if this fails or blows up? Can you live with that? Can you reverse it or put things back? Write out your worries here, and keep writing them between this subboard and the monkey mind as you work to execute your plan. Remember from the beginning, the subject is the war within. A lot of what stops us in life is imagined dragons. They're not real in most cases. And even in the rare case they are, they're usually not that big or scary a deal. You can handle it. But not addressing them on the front end, and as you go, can seriously interfere with your follow-through. Don't hide from your fears, but don't let them make your decisions for you either. Let's look at Maya's. Her biggest fear around this is that she'll give everything up and discover that she's not all that interesting without the structure, that the freedom will feel empty. So what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work. She burns through her savings, and she has to come back. That might mean taking a worse job for a while too. Can she live with that? Yes, she's had to start over before. Can she reverse it? Not entirely, but mostly. Her career is portable. Her apartment can be sublet. The hardest thing to get back will be the year lost, if it's a loss, and she doesn't see it that way. So, you'll fill yours out this way too. Anytime you hit a wall, you'll either come here or to the monkey mind board and hash out your fears and concerns to get to something actionable. It will be scary at points. It will be frustrating at points, but it's very likely you can survive it if you'll just look at your fears head on. Pull them out of the dark corners of your mind and analyze them in the light. You'll see they're not all that scary. And that's it with the journey sequence, at least until next quarter. We'll be going through other Warboard Kickstart templates in future workshops, but for now, let's talk about what you do once you have the Journey Starter template completed. This process, filling out the journey sequence, you'll repeat every quarter or year, depending on your preferred pace for planning and realigning. For demonstration purposes, though, we're going to say you just completed this for the coming quarter. So what now? Once you have the journey sequence completed, and this will be for a quarter or year, and then you'll revisit it, you'll want to set up the overview page of your warboard. The way I approach this is to go into each subboard within the journey sequence and copy over any items I want available at a glance. There will be a little subjectivity here, as no two people will want or need the same information presented to them in the same way or at the same regularity. Personally, especially with a major new direction or project, I need a pretty substantial overview to be visible until it solidifies for me. Otherwise, tomorrow, when I sit down to work, I'll be chasing some other rabbit and forget what I'm supposed to be doing to live by my own plan. Your mileage will vary, but using Maya's example, I'll show you how I would probably set this up to start. And just know that A, this will likely be a somewhat temporary setup that will be adjusted as the plan increasingly sticks in my mind, and B, your setup would be adjusted to your needs and preferences. Let's use Maya's example to give you an idea. Before we dive into this, let's talk about the overall warboard hierarchy and the navigation. If you're using Milanote, this is roughly how things lay out, especially if you're using the warboard method. Again, Milanote is just my preferred platform for warboarding, but you can use any whiteboarding app or even an empty wall in your home or office to set up a warboard. The launch page is the home page. It's the default start page within Milanote. I usually have 3 subboards here: my dashboard, an inbox, and a warboard archive. Let's go in reverse order. The warboard archive is where you'll store older iterations of your warboard, or even fragments and subboards when you want to preserve a certain version of them. Anytime I'm anticipating or planning substantial changes to my warboard, I'll duplicate it and then name and date it through the current date. So, for example, warboard through December 31st, 2025. Then I drag that version into the warboard archive for future reference, should I need it. I reference old versions of boards and board fragments regularly. So here's mine as an example. I have warboards going back to 2020. That's when I started doing them digitally. I have photos of old physical warboards that used to take up entire walls in my office. When my husband first learned how I did these, he said I should start offering them as a service. And here we are. Every few years, I might go back and merge or delete old warboards that are similar. Milanote, to my knowledge, allows unlimited boards, but there is a limit on cards per board. So if you try to duplicate, say, your warboard archive, it might tell you it's too big and has too many cards. Purging every once in a while helps take care of this. Within the same year, you might find yourself making several smaller iterations on your warboards and saving copies as you go. But after a few years, those small changes won't matter much anymore. I'll usually go in every few years and compare versions, copying any differences into the archives and then deleting what's similar. This makes it easier to locate the big chapters and changes over years. But from month to month, quarter to quarter, you might, as I do, prefer copying and archiving that frequently, or even more so, in order to preserve more recent iterations. It's worth noting here, too, that this is software and technology, and it's stored in the cloud, so there's always a risk associated with using one platform and with not having backups of your data elsewhere. If you're wise, which I'm not in this way, you'd at least get screenshots of your working boards as you go and save them in other locations, like Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever. The same could be said about physical boards in your home or office, though. I would take photos of my physical warboards, purely to be able to take them down and redo them, and so I could reference them from my computer or phone. But it wouldn't have really been in case there's a fire. It can happen, though. So, be warned. Back up, or don't, at your peril. The inbox is simply an empty board I place on my home page, purely because the Milanote mobile app is not the best. If you decide to use Milanote over other whiteboarding apps, this can be a good enough workaround for dealing with mobile when away from your computer. A computer is a necessity, if using Milanote specifically, and I would say for warboarding at all. That is, unless you use a wall in your office. There's just too much ground to cover, and you can't get a bird's eye view on mobile. So the inbox is a workaround. You'll always want to lock down your boards once you have things in place, or as you get them in place. On mobile, it's very easy to accidentally move something out of its original place, which can be a mess if you're not careful. My rule is, don't use mobile except in strict ways. The inbox is one of those. Basically, this is on your home page screen, at the top on the left, which is what you'll first see on mobile. If it's at the top, left, immediate view on mobile, then you can click right into the inbox and leave yourself quick notes or to-do lists. Then move them when you get back to desktop. Okay, next, the dashboard. The dashboard is something I offer within the warboard method templates. You may decide you can do without it. Over time, I found myself swapping browsers constantly, or forgetting where this link or that was for various projects or whatever, so I eventually just made myself a shortcut for all the things I use regularly. When I'm getting along with a particular browser for a while, obviously there are ways of working within the browser itself, and that's fine. But I always have a rough list of the apps I use a lot, and it's easy to just add one or two if I decide to break up with a browser for a while. The dashboard also is where my actual warboard is housed, as well as a variety of swipe file graphics I use on the regular. Again, I include the dashboard setup within the warboard method, but you can get the gist here too. So now we're arriving at the initial view for the actual warboard. All that's here right now is an archive. I include these on most subboards as a default, and the journey subboard where we were just working. Now we want to set up our bird's eye view for our warboard. When you first arrive at your warboard on desktop, you want an at-a-glance look at your plan and intentions. You can always and will dig deeper into your plan and its subboards, but that initial view helps you get a quick look at where you're heading and where everything stands. So if you'll remember, we completed everything in the journey sequence using Maya's example, and now we need to go into each subboard within the journey sequence and copy over any items we might want available at a glance. Again, personally, and especially with a major new direction or project, I want a pretty substantial overview to be visible until it solidifies for me. So using Maya's example, I'll show you how I would probably set this up to start. This starts by going into each and every subboard to see what I might want to copy over. We'll just take this left to right. One side note here, once you've been doing warboarding for a while, you'll already have things in your warboard overview page, so that's a good time to archive the current warboard to date. Then, once duplicated, clear everything out of the working one except the parts you need to keep. So let's dive in. The inspiration/vision board I generally don't use for my overview. You might want to copy a photo or two if that helps you stay connected to your larger vision. Or you could even create a shortcut to your inspiration/vision board and drag that into your warboard overview for quick access. Everyone will be different on this, so decide what works for you, and you can always experiment too. Remember when, same thing. I generally don't use this within the overview. Same for monkey mind, long-term vision, 3 to 5 year vision, and here there be dragons. Unless, like the inspiration/vision board, you want quick access to here there be dragons or monkey mind, and in that case, you could create a shortcut and drag those into your warboard overview. The thing is to be careful not to clutter your overview. The full journey is only a click away, so it's not hard to go into it to access all 3 of those boards. That does 2 things. It keeps your overview clean, and it helps you associate those components with the journey sequence, so you learn where to find them quickly. You want that kind of consistency to help your brain visually map your warboard overall, especially if you're a visual thinker. The real place to focus for your overview is the 90 to 100 day plan and the 12 to 18 month vision, and you may decide not to even go that far. Let's start there to see. For the overview, I wouldn't copy over more than the immediately relevant information, so, in this case, the Q1 milestone. So I'll highlight, copy, and paste that one bullet point over to the overview. In Milanote specifically, you can use the top navigation to either jump over to that board or open it in a new tab or window since you'll be going back and forth. I just paste all the items into the Unsorted tab until I'm ready to organize them within the page. Back to the journey view, we'll now go into the 90 to 100 day plan and see what we might want to copy over. In this case, I'll copy the entire list over because it involves the immediate next steps as well as the daily work block commitment. And again, I'll just paste this into the Unsorted, and we'll now reorganize them around the desired layout, which, as with everything, will be different from person to person. Now, layout-wise, a few things we know about Maya to this point. She likes visual elements, but goes for efficiency with the items that might change more frequently. That means she's using a combination of custom graphics, Canva created in this case, and simple Milanote note cards where warranted. The warboard overview is the most dynamic page of the board, so it doesn't necessarily pay to spend exorbitant amounts of time on custom graphics. At the same time, however, it is the page you'll see the most, so you may like to spend more time there since you'll be looking at it all the time and want something inviting and inspiring. So the first thing I did was move the Journey subboard out of the prime central real estate. It's accessible but not front and center. Next, I considered the items in the Unsorted bin or tab. The overall Q1 milestone goal is important because it tells Maya, at a glance, where she's headed and what the focus is this quarter. I've put that in a prominent spot up top, along with the overall vision for her life, which is to have a life of freedom. Below that, I've put the big question she needs to answer this quarter. What does it cost to live the life she wants? She'll figure this out by tracking her income and expenses over Q1. I then divided out the actionable items. First, the big rock daily block she wants to work on her warboard and goals each day. Then the steps she needs to complete this quarter. and finally, the steps to complete this week. As she completes those, she'll continue down the list of Q1 steps, breaking those down into action steps for each week. And that's it. This is where Maya will start her days, right in the war board overview. If this were my board, as I started working the week's steps, I'd place notes at the bottom of the screen, accessible but not the first thing that gets my attention each morning. As I finish with those steps and notes, I'd either delete them or drag them to the archive up top for future reference, should I need them again. The warboard overview is a living document, and every day it will evolve and change, so will the entire warboard. So that gives you a rundown of the journey sequence within the warboard method. In future workshops, I'll be breaking down the other templates, as well as real-life use cases, showing the various ways you can use the warboard method to stay focused and organized, without overwhelm, as you work on building your dream life or project. If you want the full template so you don't have to build it from scratch, head to warboardmethod.com. You can also sign up for one-on-one warboarding sessions there, if you need help creating a living action plan for your dream life or project. And if you're interested in following along with this mini workshop series, you can subscribe here or over at Substack, links below and in the profile.